All right, so now I'm working on the wheel bearings. This side was completely seized up. I'm working on the other side now, and I'm going to show you how I do it. All right, so here's a bearing I got out of the other side. There's two of them. There's two oil seals. It was completely seized up with rust and stuff, but I took it apart, and then I tried to grease it, and this thing, I just took these off and thought, well, maybe I'll clean it up, but it's full of rust. The bearing is all rusted on the inside, and it spins fine, but it's got wobble to it, so it's junk at this point. So I got to take this apart. There's the other parts down there, the other side, and you can see I can't even turn it. I thought, oh, that's just the brakes. But no, it's not the brakes. It's the bearing. So I'm going to pop this off. I use an air chisel to get the bearings out, and it works amazingly. So let me put y'all on the tripod here and get to work. All right, so the camera hates my impact. It messes with the audio, but that's not going to stop us. So, oh my gosh. It needs brakes on this side, the other side, and the back. There's only 3 discs on this, but I think I'm going to wait on the brakes for now and just get this thing put back together, and then I'll swap them out. You know, it's easy enough to take off. I don't want to order all that. I already got a bunch of other stuff apart, and I don't know, I might order them now, I might not, but let's get this thing apart. All right, finally. Oh my gosh, dude. Look at that. They're rusted. Dude, that better not have ate into the... That's just horrible. That's like welded. It like welded itself on there. All right, so here's the trick I've been waiting on to show y'all right here. I did this once before on a Grizzly 700, and it was an absolute nightmare. I sat there and pounded on them. It took me hours and hours. So now we have this. So what you do is, since you're replacing them anyways, you can destroy it. There's a spacer in here. You see it. I'm moving it around in there, and I'm going to get it all the way over so it's out of the way. and I'm going to hit on the inner race with the air hammer, and this thing's just going to walk it right out. 2 seconds. There it goes. Golly. All right, take care of your stuff, guys. I mean, this back bearing isn't that bad. It's not that bad. I had to heat it up with the torch. It's still hot, but yeah, I got new bearings in the mail. I'm ordering new bearings. These are toast. I'm not even playing with those. So I'll put links in the description to the parts I'm going to use. I found some on eBay. It's a whole front kit. The front and rear seals. Where are they? There's a seal over there. Front and rear seals, front and rear bearings. Basically 4 bearings, 4 seals for $20. So I'm gonna get that. They're gonna be China bearings. I don't care. The suspension stuff is pretty good, but the Koyo bearings are really expensive. So I'm gonna end this here, and we'll be back when I get my parts in the mail. So I'm looking at the rear end on this thing, and I want to rebuild the bearings in it. I know it's kind of dark over here, but you got to take everything off, all that, all that, all that, all that, all that, all that, and support it all on jack stands. So I already jacked it up and checked the bearings, and they seemed good enough, but the fronts seemed good enough, and they were completely seized. So bearings on eBay for the China bearings are like $16, so I'm about to just tear into it. I don't know if it's going to be video worthy if I take it apart. All right, so you can see I got this whole thing apart here. There's that half, there's the diff, there's the other half, and I got the axles out. I don't know how far I want to go with this thing. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So it's got O-rings on both sides like that, and they were not doing a good job at all. And the seals on the end of the shafts weren't doing a good job at all. So I'm going to have to put some kind of RTV or Honda Bond 4 on here. I don't know if I want to replace these seals. I got a huge OEM parts list, and I'm going to be waiting on everything at once. So I need to check these seals. I might pressure test it, but I'm going to have to clean this whole thing up and pound the bearings out of here. So I'm going to skip to that busy work here and get the grinder out and get all these shafts all cleaned up and stuff. But you can see it's caked up with all kinds of mud and stuff in there. Apparently I was wrong. It's all like one piece, so it's not going to leak gear oil out. I don't think these seals are bad, but I can see like gaps right here. And it has the perfect oil level, and I already checked it. Of course, I'm going to dump it out while I have it apart. But I'm not sure how far I want to go with this, because that seal is easy to replace. But this one, yeah, it's buried in there. It's going to be a pain in the butt to replace, and I'm not taking this whole diff apart to replace it. So, yeah, that's where we're at right now. I'm just going to go ahead and start pounding this stuff apart and getting it cleaned up here. And then I'll report back. All right, so the bearings exploded. I hope that was on camera. The bearings exploded and went everywhere. All right, so here's the old bearing. The other one's in 1,000 pieces. But yeah, this was totally stupid. It had a seal on one side and it was open on the other, and they were backed together. So both of the open ends were backed up against each other, and then there were seals on each side. So seal, open, and then the other one was open and a seal. So it's got a seal on each end, which is totally stupid. On the Grizzly, it has a big bearing, and it's all one piece. So the thing's like $40 a piece. Yeah, so I need 4 of these and 2 oil seals, or excuse me, 2 shaft seals, grease seals, whatever they're called. So, yeah, God. I'm glad I take these things apart. You know, I get bored and I take them apart while I'm waiting on other parts, and it's just ordering more and more parts. You got to take this stuff all the way apart. I mean, if I would have ran it like this, it would have destroyed the diff because it would have been wobbly. It would have wallowed all out inside the diff splines, and it wouldn't have been good. So take your stuff all the way apart. All right, cue to the new parts. All right, so we got all these bearings laid out here. We have the rear, front, and old bearings. That's why I had to film it the way I'm doing it. But if y'all want to get a hold of these bearing kits before I review them here, check out the links in the description. I'll link to them down there. You know, I'm going to say they were like $30 to $40 for all of this stuff, for all the bearings and the seals. So that's really good value, because just one of these bearings is like $10 a piece, you know, from Koyo or any of those type of places. These were originally Koyo bearings. So they don't come pre-covered in grease like this, all this red grease on here. That's my doing. But here's the rear, front. So we have 4 bearings for the rear here, 2 oil seals. There's an extra seal in there because I ordered an extra one for the diff. But 2 oil seals, 2 bearings, so it's like 8 bearings in total. And then here's the old ones. So my thing with this is they don't put enough grease in the bearings. That's why these are covered in red stuff. So I pop the covers off and get in there and put some more grease in there, because the amount of grease they put in there is for like an electric motor or something. It's for something that's spinning fast like that. It's not for like a wheel bearing like this. And yeah, I'm going to pop the cover off of this here in a second and show y'all. But just to show y'all the quality of these real quick. All right, so here's an oil seal. It looks like an oil seal. It's perfectly fine, honestly, for what it is. It's just a good oil seal. I mean, it was like $2, and it's going to last, it looks like. Here's the bearing. I'm about to pop it open here, but it looks good. It feels good. Everything feels fine about it. These are high quality bearings. This isn't like, you know, eBay China cheap China 25-cent bearing, you know, a piece bearing. They look to be decent here. I mean, all the aftermarket parts are Chinese bearings anyways. So, you know, you're looking at $10 a piece, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, $80 in bearings, plus all the OEM. You're looking at $200 to redo all this stuff versus like 30. You know, with OEM parts, it's like 200. I'm babbling. Here's the front. Comes with 2 oil seals. All right, so here's the original bearings here. This is a Koyo Romanian bearing, but you can see there's no grease in them. The guy thought this thing was a boat, and yeah, the seals were blown on these. The seals were blown on the axle shafts, everything. So I'm going to pack more grease in these bearings because the little amount of grease, that's what I've already done to all of these. I'm going to show you on this one. But the tiny amount of grease they put in these is like for an electric motor. Like I said, it's ridiculous. So I'm popping the cover. Let's see how much grease is in here. Yeah, so just get the tip of your pick in there and pry it up. And then pop it out. Do it on the outside, not the inside. You'll mess it up. But you can see there's no grease in this thing. There's nothing in there. And for a wheel bearing, you know, that's unacceptable. I'm going to pop the other side. Let's see how much is in there. All right, so here's the other side. And yeah, I don't know. I've read that wheel bearings, or excuse me, ball bearings are designed to have, you know, 1/3 to a half full of grease. I say that's a quarter full, but I'm going to pack the whole thing full. You know what? Because I've never taken apart a bearing, a wheel bearing, and said, huh, that broke because it had too much grease in it. Oh, that failed because there was too much grease in that. I have never, how many times have you taken apart a wheel bearing and said that? So, the seals, we just lay them to the side here, and we're going to pack some more grease in here. Now, some guys get really picky, and they'll like clean out all this grease, soak it in brake cleaner and stuff. That's the proper way to do it. I did it on one, and yeah, you know what? I'm just going to pack it with grease. So go ahead and flame me in the comments. I don't care. I got stuff to do today. I need this thing done. Tired of tripping over parts here, so we're just going to pack it with grease. All right, so here's the wheel bearing before. We're going to pack it full of grease. Here's the grease I'm using, Lucas Red and Tacky. It works fine for wheel bearings. I've used it for years, so that's what I'm going to use. All right, so I feel like that's pretty good. You know, it's not busting out the seams. It's you know, I'd say it's pretty full. So, like I said, for an electric motor or something, that amount of grease in there, I guess they just wanted to disperse throughout the whole thing and just like, you know, coat it in a light film of oil or something. Well, I haven't calculated how many RPMs the wheels spin at. I'm not really interested in wasting time doing that. It's a four-wheeler. But put some more grease in the wheel bearings. They don't put enough in them, like honestly. Most of that stuff washes out anyways. If you pack these things full of grease, they prevent water from getting in there. And just don't go crazy with it. Just put more in it. So to pop these seals back in, we're just gonna just like that, and pop them all the way back in. All right, so now we got our bearings taken care of. All right, so I got the parts laid out here. I got this hub all cleaned up. So I'm gonna show you how I do it. I have this outer race from my old bearing, the one of them that was broken, and I ground the outside of it so that it slips in and out easy, see? So it won't get stuck. So I'm just gonna pound them in. I don't have a ball peen hammer, so y'all get claw hammer today. And on the outside of these seals, I'm going to use this aviation gasket maker. Completely and totally overkill. I don't care. I'm going to do it. I'm going to put a light coat on the outside. All right, so that hub's done. I just need to pound it down a little bit more, but that ring on the inside, you saw how I used the hub to keep it centered. That's important because you'll have to take it back apart if you don't get that ring centered, or you'll have to beat it to the center. All right, so now we can put this thing back together. All right, so same deal with the back. Take some time and just make one of these. I made this one, and it's helped me pound in all 8 of these bearings. You see, I just ground on the outside of it, so it goes right in there. All right, so here's the deal. On the inside, they don't want you to have a seal here, so I popped the seal out, and they want you to pop the other seal out. That's how they were from the factory, and butt them up like that so there's no seal in the middle, and pack it full of grease. These seals were super tight and they cut a little bit when they went in. They cut around the outside, but I'm not worried about it. So now it's time to put this whole thing back together and get it back in the four-wheeler. All right, so I got this whole thing laid out here. This shaft's longer than the other side's shorter. I got to put 4 bolts in. They want red Loctite on them, torque to 40 foot-pounds. It's got this tow package thing. It's going to be really clunky to get back together. But I want to show y'all how I put silicone on here. So it says replace it with a new O-ring, but the O-ring didn't seal good before. So I'm going to put a light coat of silicone around the O-ring. And I mean a light coat. I mean thin on the outer surface here. A lot of guys put like a bead. It's unnecessary. You don't need a bead. Just coat a light coat with your finger here. And yeah, just put a light coat. Some guys let it sit up and tack up before they squish it down. I'm going to do the best I can on this thing. But let's just do it. All right, so the silicone I'm using is Honda Bond HT. I'm using, Permatex. It doesn't matter for this application, but I got this for the head, and I haven't gotten to that step yet, and I'm not buying new stuff, so I'm using this. put some more silicone on this side and squish it together. All right, let's get this thing back in the four-wheeler already. All right, so these go to 43.5 foot-pounds. All right, so I have a tip for y'all putting any kind of hub back together on a four-wheeler. So that seal rides right in there, right on here. So if you can get in there and clean it up, and then, clean it up, see, you get the groove out of it, then it'll seal up a whole heck of a lot better and hopefully not get a bunch of, water up in there. All right, so on this nut right here, this isn't like one of those, torque it down, finger tight, and back off and stick the cotter pin through dealios. This one right here, and the one on the other side, I already did it. And on all the other ones like this on here, they need to be torqued down to the proper torque spec, and then the cotter pin goes through the little hole. But it's 72.5 foot-pounds, just like the other side. So you're probably going to have to, I would rather over torque it than under torque it on this, because, I torque it to that and then hit it with the impact just a little bit to get it to line up if it's, within reason, because I would rather have it a little too tight than too loose, obviously. But definitely make sure to torque this, because this isn't just, finger tight, stick the cotter pin through deal. If you do that on this, you're going to be sorry. All right, let's put the tire on here and get this thing tight. Try a new method with these cotter pins here. Instead of bending them both, let's try something new. Alright, I still gotta torque the lug nuts, but I'm not gonna bore y'all with that. Done.